So Zenith is one of those brands that is in a weird spot. They are one of the most well-respected watch brands in Switzerland, or at least within the enthusiast community. It is hard to find a video or an article with a negative opinion about the brand, but it is also equally difficult to find a person actually wearing a Zenith watch. I go to Watch Geek meetups, I spend a stupid amount of time scrolling through Watch Instagram, and scarcely do I see a Zenith. It's not never, it's always exciting to see one, but it's few and far between. Before we get into this one, I feel like I should say this is not a Zenith hit piece. I really like Zenith. I've had the Chronomaster Revival Shadow into review a while back, and I genuinely couldn't find a bad thing to say about it. They are this amazing brand with all the winning ingredients, quality timepieces, high complications, and a storied heritage. This video isn't meant to disparage them, but explore why such a fantastic brand isn't as popular as it should be. So why don't people buy Zenith watches? What is the Zenith problem? Now, discussing price and resale value is always a bit awkward in watch media. On the one hand, we say, buy what you love, don't let price or resale value influence you. But on the other hand, money matters. Money and price is a very real obstacle when making big, expensive purchases like watches. I completely understand why people care about resale value. I try my best to not let it influence my purchasing decisions, but I think it is good due diligence to see secondary prices and then decide if you're going to purchase new or secondary. With all that said, buying new, Zenith is in a really tough price point because their prices directly compete with incredibly popular brands like Rolex Omega, Cartier, IWC, etc. It is competing with better known brands that are household names, and it's a really tough place to compete. And it is also at a price point that is just high enough for the average consumer that it's a purchase they have to really think about before spending that money. This isn't the kind of money most people can spend willy-nilly. This is a thoughtful and considered purchase when we're around the $10,000 price point, and I just think so many people end up spending that money on a Rolex or Omega or a Cartier instead. If you had $6,000 to $10,000 to spend on a watch, maybe let's make it a chronograph. Are you going to go for a Chronomaster El Primero? Or are you going to get an Omega Speedmaster? If you're an enthusiast, you might be thinking, definitely the Zenith. Of course the Zenith. But I'm just not sure that that's the same decision a not watch geek customer would make, the average watch buyer would make. I'm not sure the Zenith brand is strong enough to make the average person part with their money. Speaking frankly, and a lot more frank than I usually do, watch manufacturers have bumped up prices way ahead of inflation without any technical advancements to justify it because they're trying to appear more luxury and people just don't want to take a bath. If you buy a watch for £2,000 and it is worth £1,200 on the secondary, it hurts far less than £8,000 to £4,000 secondary, which is just sadly the reality for a lot of mid-tier luxury brands, including Zenith. Should secondary prices inform your purchases? I don't think so. I'm always someone who says, buy what you love. Secondary prices don't matter if you're not going to sell because you've bought a watch that you love. But the reality is for a lot of people, this really matters and it will keep them away from buying brands like Zenith, sadly. Another contributing factor to the Zenith problem is their marketing strategy. What is their marketing strategy? I can't think of any celebrity brand endorsements or sponsorship slots, and I really think this is why people from outside of the enthusiast circles haven't heard of them. I think a lot of pure watch enthusiasts will really like this. They don't care about David Beckham or what watch is Ryan Gosling wearing. But it is a way to bring in new people from outside of the enthusiast circles, and that's where most customers are. Even me, I am a watch enthusiast, but every time I go to the cinema, I'm watch spotting. If I'm watching F1, I'm looking at what the drivers are wearing and then I'm going to the websites to learn more. Getting watches in front of people drives interest. And if I may, quick tangent, I feel like Zenith would perfectly partner with Haas, my favorite F1 team. You guys should think about it. I would love this. 2 underdogs. Or maybe Williams. That would be good. But from what I see, Zenith is catering for and targeting the things watch enthusiasts are looking for: movement innovations, high frequency, weird complications like 1/10 chronographs. It's a real if you know kind of brand to buy into, which I personally love. I'm glad not every brand is catering to the masses with the same old boring stuff, but here's the rub. A lot of watch enthusiasts will tell you the Zenith Chronomaster Sport is better than the Rolex Daytona, but then won't actually put their money where their mouth is. And next complaint, and this is a very me complaint, but it is something that has actively kept me away from buying a Zenith, and it is their lack of investment into the wearing experience, specifically their bracelets. Oh, I feel like I'm always complaining about bracelets. This is a problem I've had with Grand Seiko and Omega, where they keep investing in more insane movements and new innovations, but don't tackle the simple things that more people are actually looking for when buying a watch. Bracelet tapers, micro adjustments, those little things that elevate the watch and improve the wearing experience and justifies the luxury price tag. Watches are all about the minute details, and sometimes ultimately they're about how they make you feel. Take the Chronomaster Sport. Gorgeous watch. Looking at the dial, I'd say it is far more interesting than, say, the Rolex Daytona, but it falls pretty short on the things that Rolex does deliver. To my knowledge, there is no micro adjustment on the clasp, and it just doesn't feel as premium. That bracelet doesn't feel as premium as the Rolex, even though it has a very similar price tag. It's these details that make me choose Rolex over their competitors, sadly. I'd love to swap out my Daytona for something more niche, something more interesting, something less basic. But I have to be quite sure on the wearing experience, and Rolex just feels far more elegant. And last but not least, let's talk about the movement maker's curse. Now, this is an idea I'm still thrashing through in my head, so let me know in those comments down below if there's anything you'd add to this, or if you think it's completely not relevant. I don't know. It's just a thought I have. But with this idea, I think of brands like JLC. Jaeger-LeCoultre is a brand like Zenith that is held in high esteem with watch collectors and enthusiasts. The caliber 920 is probably the most significant automatic ultra-thin caliber ever created. This is the movement they sold to Audemars Piguet to be used in the Royal Oak 5402 ST and Patek Philippe with the 3700 Nautilus, which is why people call JLC the watchmaker's watchmaker. Hugely important brand, but the problem is, for a lot of people, JLC is known as the movement makers for the Holy Trinity brands, rather than being known for their own collections. They are better known through stronger brands than for their own brand, if that makes sense. Sure, us watch geeks will know the Reverso, the Polaris, Master Control, Atmos, but speaking in a more wider sense, they are better known as the movement suppliers to Patek and AP in the 1970s. Maybe this is just me speaking from my own experience. Like when I was a bit newer to watches, I was just starting to learn a few new brands and dipping my toes in just a little bit further. I couldn't have told you a single JLC collection, but I had heard that they made movements for AP and Patek, and because of that, they were hugely underrated and a real if you know kind of brand. But I still couldn't have named a single JLC collection at that time. I feel like Zenith has fallen into the same trappings. They are better known as the movement suppliers to Rolex, notably with the Rolex Daytona 16520, produced from 1988 to 2000. If someone has heard of Zenith, it is far more likely that they have heard of them as movement suppliers to Rolex than as their own watch brand. But I don't know. What do I know? This is my theory. I'm really curious to see what you guys think, if you think this is just a load of dum-dumness. But let me know in those comments. This is just a theory I'm working through. It could be nothing. As I said at the beginning of this video, this is not a Zenith hit piece, but rather examining a brand that I love and I'd love to see more of. I would love to see more Zenith watches on people's wrists. I think of watches like the Chronomaster Sport, which is, in my opinion, the strongest competitor to the Rolex Daytona, and I find it quite a bit more interesting. The El Primero is aesthetically one of my favorite chronographs. It has this unique design language with the tonneau case shape, 430 date, just unmistakably Zenith. And of course, their heritage is world class. I'm thinking specifically of their contributions to the chronograph and the automatic chronograph. As a watchmaker, you can't argue with them. I'd love to see Zenith getting the love they deserve. I just wish they would invest in their marketing a wee bit more and maybe bring their prices down just a little bit. I'd love there to be more Zenith content out there. I would love to get more of their watches into review. If there's anyone watching this video from Zenith, I mean, holler at your girl. I would love to make more Zenith content, but I also understand if no one's watching from Zenith. In fact, I expect no one to be watching. I'd love to know if you think there's a Zenith problem. Let me know in those comments down below. Let me know if you think I got anything way wrong. And now let's thank the beautiful, gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful Pope tier patrons.